I've been listening to so many of the speakers today, and I was trying to identify a common thread that runs through all of these talks. And there is definitely a common thread that runs through these talks. And what I've picked up is who we are, I beg your pardon, as women. So it's YTT, my life's designer label. So can anybody tell me what you think YTT stands for? Okay. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Because all of us come from yesterday. There's been a yesterday, there's been a history of things that have happened in our lives, things that people have said to us, good, bad, ugly, that influences our belief systems, and it influences the way that we think, and it influences our today. And the way that our today is influenced will determine where our tomorrow is, and where we're going to go to tomorrow, and what adjustments and changes we need to make in our belief systems. Many of the speakers today spoke about experiences that happened to them that forced them to change their lives. Okay, so this was me in 2014. The photo on the left sports me, bright smile, a mop of red hair. And the photo on the right is me on the summit of Kilimanjaro about 2 or 3 years before that. And I've purposefully juxtaposed these two images because I'm going to come back to the lessons that I was taught in Tanzania, which would carry me through probably the darkest time in my life, very shortly after this photograph was taken. Now, my entire life, I pushed myself to the nth degree because I suffered from two fears. The fear of not being good enough and the fear of rejection. And I think if we're honest with ourselves, somewhere, sometime in our lives, we all suffer from that fear of rejection and that fear that I'm not good enough. So I pushed myself. I excelled in absolutely everything that I did, whether it was academics, whether it was sport, whether it was cultural things. Because I always believed and felt that if I excelled and I really did so well, then people wouldn't reject me, and I would be good enough. And I started to lose myself in the process. I started off as an attorney, and I practiced for 7 years. And then I got divorced. And then I decided, okay, if I change one thing, then I change everything. That's kind of the way my personality goes. There's no middle way. It's either Dikantu or that way. So I sold my practice, and I moved to Johannesburg. Now, I'm a valley girl. I come from the farm. So here I move to Johannesburg. I start in an IT company. I know nothing about IT. I go for the interview. They ask me, what does IT stand for? And I go, IT. And they say, no, it's information technology. And I go, what's information technology? Because I used to talk for a living. I'd have a dictaphone and I have somebody type stuff and I sign and I go to court and boom, end of story. And I started at the bottom of this company and I worked myself up. And a year after I got divorced, my ex-husband died in a car crash. So that was a whole bunch of other emotions that I had to deal with. And so on and so forth. All the rejection, all the drama. But in all of this, I forced myself to make choices that were sometimes good for me and choices that were sometimes bad for me. But I was determined that I would, in this corporate ladder, I would get to the top. So I was always chasing the next multi-million rand contract, the next award, the next salesperson of the year, the next whatever. I climbed mountains. I ran the Comrades twice. I cycled from Windhoek to Cape Town on my bicycle. I was always running. And in the process, I kind of left God out of the equation as well. I project managed God. I used to say to him, Okay, right, we've got a bit of a problem here. So I'm going to move over slightly. You drive for a while, and then when I think you're done, then I'll take over the steering wheel. And does that sound familiar? How many of us actually do that? Okay. And then I decided, but we were just one moment. So when I finally decided, okay, I'm done with corporate. I've now sold my soul to the devil. There is nothing left of me as an individual. I have lost any form of creativity. I was photographing in the Masai Mara in 2013, and the creative spark started to come back. And I had a client who said to me, Cindy, give up corporate. Take a sabbatical. Go and write your screenplay. Go and write your book. Go and write the plays. Go study drama because you always wanted to be an actress. And that's exactly what I did. So in November 2013, I went to London for a week. And I studied under the mentorship and the tuition of an American writer called Robert McKee. He's had a couple of Oscar-winning students. And I was walking back in the rain one day and I realized, but this is what I want to do. I want to write stories. I want to tell stories. I want to save the world. And in January of 2014, I handed in my resignation. And everybody said to me, Eish, Cindy, what are you doing? You're in your 40s. You're having a midlife crisis. You're giving up. You've already given up your legal degree. And I said, no, I've done my master's in between as well, so I haven't given up my legal degree. It comes in handy every now and again. And everybody thought I had gone completely Looney Tunes. I'd lost my marbles. Handed in my resignation, packed up my house for 3 months, shipped my dogs off to a friend, and I went to Los Angeles. And I studied script and screenplay writing at the Screenwriters University. I did an acting conservatory course at the Edgemar School of the Arts. I landed up on set of an international children's movie where I was a set photographer, and life was groovy. Finally, I was living my passion. Still very little God in the background, but I was living my passion. I was finally feeling alive. And I came back, and that happened. Okay. In August of 2014, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. Early stage 2, on the right side. And I said to all the ologists, the oncologist, the radiologist, the sonographer, there's not an ologist in that, but I said to them, you take this one off, you take that one off. I'm going through this journey only once. And now you must realize, and it was one of the earlier speakers that said that we get put in a box. And we get judged and labeled the way we look and what we have. And when I came out of the doctor's consulting rooms, it was actually very poignant because I'd wanted a friend to go with, and she wasn't available, and the other friend wasn't available. And the saddest part is I was always the go-to person. If you needed something fixed, sorted, mended, legal advice, photography, it didn't matter. I was the go-to person. And all of a sudden, the go-to person didn't have a go-to person. Okay. And I phoned a friend of mine's domestic, Lizzie, because I sat on the curb. I'm absolutely shell-shocked. And speak about an ice bucket challenge. That is the feeling that happens to you when you've just been told you've got stage 2 cancer. And I went and sat on the curb next to my car, and the car guard was still trying to go, and I said to him, listen, but not today. And I phoned Lizzie, and I said to her, Lizzie, I have cancer. She turned around and she said to me in her simple, infinite wisdom, Aiwa Moratiwa, are you going to die? And it's that, are you going to die? That switched something in my mind. I needed, and that was part of God's plan, that there was no go-to person, because none of my go-to people would have been that honest with me. Okay, because that's what Cindy needs. Cindy doesn't need pomperlanging. She needs that hard reality. To say, I can't Lizzie. Me, when I'm not going to die. There's still lots that I need to do. But it was, and it still is, a very, very, very difficult journey. I had the bilateral mastectomy on the 4th of September 2014. And you try and recall when you come out of the theatre what all happened, because you've now just lost some of your body bits, some important body bits, some body bits that I was very attached to. And in the early hours of that night, they came to change the pain drip, and I lie thinking, what now? I'm going to survive this. Come hell or high water, I'm going to survive this. And for the first time in many years, I heard God's voice. And he said to me, I have carried you for so many years, and I will continue to carry you, because your work is not done yet. So it was something that Lizzie said, hearing God's voice, that really kicked my bum into shape and said, we're going to sort this. So I decided the word chemotherapy, the word cancer, these are harsh words. These are words that people hear and they put FBOB on speed dial. Because you're going to die. It's a death sentence. It's not. Because medicine does 50%. The rest of the 50% is up to you. It's up to your attitude. You have to throw out all of those belief systems, all of the yesterday, all of the hurt, because there's no space for that anymore when you're fighting a terminal disease. So I looked at this whole thing and I said, one or two things happens in my life. If I'm very stressed, I see the humor in everything and everything is funny. Or the other side is I become very withdrawn. And this time I realized I can't become withdrawn. I need my friends. I need my family. I need my God. And for the first time, I'm not particularly good at asking people for help. And for the first time, I put my hand up to say, I need help. I need help in the hours of the night when your mind races. I need help to cook for me when I can't cook for myself. But I changed my approach, and I named chemotherapy happy hour. And I'll tell you why. Who's never had a hangover in this room before? Oh, okay, Tembo, so that's a bit of a problem. Okay. But so I'm speaking to 95% of the audience. Take any hangover you've ever had and amplify by 10, because that's what you feel like 2 or 3 days after you've had chemotherapy. Okay, so we started off the first one quite wonderfully. We had strawberry daiquiri, and then we moved on to a pina colada, and these sessions were 3 weeks apart. And we had a mojito, and number 4 was particularly bad, because that's when all of these chemicals in your body start to compound. You're very weak, your immune system is absolutely and utterly depleted, and there's a shooter called the Sowetan toilet. And I hate that shooter. It's sleg, man, it's not nice. And chemo number 5 was sex on the beach. And the last one was champagne chemo, because that was the last one. But that was not the end of the journey. Radiation still lay ahead of me. Radiation is a journey on its own. So the first day that I had to go into the radiation room, you lie there, it's very cold, your upper body is obviously naked, and you lie, and there's this monstrosity of a thing at the back of you. And there's a robot system in the roof that goes from green, which means that there's no radioactivity, nothing is active. Then there's an amber light and goes pop, 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 and then the machine starts to initiate, and then red pop, and this, and I thought, okay, I have an imagination. So I'm in Star Wars. So I call this my glow-in-the-dark therapy because believe you me, after 3 weeks you start to glow in the dark. It becomes very painful. But the other most difficult thing for me during this journey was losing my hair. Okay, but even that, I took a step back and I asked my friends, how do you want to get involved? So when my hair started to fall out, we had a shave-a-thon at my house. And I called it the Bold and the Beautiful. And I called myself Boldilocks. So for the entire duration of my chemotherapy, I was Boldilocks. And I wore my head, my baldy head, with pride. And we used to have photo sessions like these because it was important for me to accept the person I had become during this transition phase. Okay. So, what does my tomorrow look like? I finished my script. It's a movie called Adam's Hope. At the time that I was feeling at my worst, where I could hardly stay up straight for 2 hours, I forced myself to write because there was an authenticity in my emotions that was never before there. I used to be quite arrogant. But there was all of a sudden a humbleness and an authenticity that came through in my writing that was never, ever there before. And I realized that I had been given a second chance in life. Up until my cancer diagnosis, I was living a life of success. I was chasing the worldly stuff. I was chasing that gives us status. But at the same time, I was chasing that almost destroyed me. And I said that if I survive, I will live a life of significance, where I do not serve self, but the people around me. So my tomorrow is seeing my movie air, seeing key legislative changes take place to species protect our animals and our planet, and including ourselves, to see key legislation changes around plastic and plastic consumerism, to drive children's theatre, because there can be no conservation without education. So there is so much that still needs to be done, that this is not the end of my journey. This is more or less what I look like today. But for the first time in my life, I see the rainbows. I can walk in the rain. I can admire the sunsets. I believe in myself because I don't have to prove anything to anybody anymore. There will always be another mountain. It's not about what's waiting on the other side, ladies. It's about the journey. It's about hope. It's about tomorrow. So isn't it time that you embrace tomorrow? Unpack the designer wheelie full of the heartache that we've put in little boxes and compartmentalized and nurture so lovingly. Oh, look, my divorce. Oh, look this. And take our dreams and our hope out of the trash. And take the rubbish that's in the designer suitcase and put that into the trash. And take your dreams, your aspirations, and look at your tomorrow. Thank you very much.